What if I told you the oldest message ever left by a sleeping human is over 4,000 years old? Not a letter, not a diary, a dream. Somehow, that dream survived the collapse of kingdoms, the disappearance of an entire language, and thousands of years buried beneath the earth, and today you can still read it. What's even stranger, the person who had that dream woke up asking the exact same question you've probably asked after a strange night. What did that mean? 4,000 years later, despite brain scanners, neuroscience, and modern psychology, we still don't have a complete answer. But before we can understand the first dream ever recorded, there's an even stranger question. How do we know what someone dreamed 4,000 years ago? Dreams disappear the moment we wake up. Clay doesn't. Travel back to ancient Mesopotamia, the land between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, often called the cradle of civilization. Cities were growing, laws were being written, mathematics was taking shape, and humanity had just invented one of its greatest tools, writing. Instead of paper, scribes pressed tiny wedge-shaped marks into wet clay with a reed stylus. The writing system was called cuneiform. Once those tablets dried, they became astonishingly durable enough to survive 4,000 years. For centuries, though, nobody could read them. The language was forgotten. The cities vanished beneath sand and ruins. Then, in the 19th century, archaeologists excavated the ancient library of Ashurbanipal in what is now Iraq. Thousands of broken clay tablets emerged from the rubble. Among them were fragments of a story no one had read for almost 2,000 years, the Epic of Gilgamesh. In 1872, British Museum scholar George Smith began translating the tablets. According to later accounts, he became so excited by what he discovered that he reportedly jumped up and started removing his clothes in celebration. Imagine uncovering one of humanity's oldest stories and realizing it preserved someone's dream. That dream belonged to Gilgamesh, the legendary king of Uruk. One night, he falls asleep. Then the sky breaks open. Something enormous falls from the heavens. Some translations describe it as a blazing meteor. Others call it a gigantic axe. Whatever it is, it lands with impossible weight. Gilgamesh walks toward it. He tries to move it. He can't. Then something even stranger happens. He embraces it, like an old friend. The dream feels so vivid that the next morning he tells his mother every detail and asks a question that has echoed across history. What does it mean? His mother doesn't dismiss it. She interprets it. The object from the sky, she says, represents someone powerful who's about to enter his life. Someone who will become closer than family. Soon afterward, a wild man named Enkidu appears. The two fight fiercely. Neither can defeat the other. Instead, they become inseparable companions, setting out on legendary adventures together. Within the story, the dream appears to come true. To us, this sounds like mythology. But to the people of Mesopotamia, dreams weren't entertainment. They were information, messages from the gods, warnings, prophecies. Kings employed professional dream interpreters. Important decisions about war, politics, and religion could depend on what someone dreamed the night before, and Mesopotamia wasn't alone. Ancient Egypt produced dream books listing hundreds of dreams, each labelled as either fortunate or unfortunate, complete with interpretations. In ancient Greece, people travelled to temples dedicated to Asclepius, the god of healing. They slept there hoping a dream would reveal the cure for an illness. Across civilizations, dreams were treated as something worth listening to. Then, humanity's explanation changed. In the early 20th century, Sigmund Freud argued dreams revealed hidden wishes buried in the unconscious mind. Carl Jung believed they contained universal symbols shared across cultures. Today, neuroscience asks a different question. Not, what do dreams mean, but why does the brain dream at all? In 1953, scientists discovered REM sleep, a stage where the brain becomes almost as active as when we're awake. Since then, researchers have proposed many ideas. Maybe dreams help organize memories. Maybe they process emotions after difficult experiences. Maybe they simulate dangerous situations so we can practice surviving them in complete safety. One theory suggests dreams are simply the brain trying to make sense of random bursts of neural activity. Another argues the brain is constantly updating its internal model of reality, and dreams are part of that process. Every theory explains something. None explain everything, And dreaming isn't even uniquely human. Dogs twitch and bark while asleep. Rats replay routes through mazes inside their brains during sleep. Octopuses rapidly change colour as they rest, as though acting out invisible scenes. Even jumping spiders appear to enter a REM-like state. If creatures this different all experience something resembling dreams, how old is dreaming, really? Maybe it existed long before humans ever looked up at the stars, maybe long before civilization, which makes that clay tablet even more remarkable. It isn't valuable because it contains the first dream anyone ever had. It almost certainly doesn't. Humans dreamed for tens of thousands of years before anyone invented writing. It's valuable because it's the earliest dream humanity managed to preserve, the first time someone cared enough to record one. 4,000 years separate us from Gilgamesh. Since then, we've built telescopes that peer into distant galaxies. We've mapped the human genome. We've landed on the moon. We can watch the brain while a person sleeps. And yet, when someone wakes from a strange dream and asks, "Why did I dream that?" science still doesn't have a complete answer. Maybe that's why the oldest recorded dream still feels surprisingly modern. Not because it predicted the future, not because it proved the gods were speaking, but because it preserved one of humanity's oldest unanswered questions. Thousands of years, countless civilizations, endless theories, and every morning, somewhere in the world, someone wakes up remembering fragments of a strange story their own mind created and asks exactly what a king in ancient Mesopotamia once asked. What did it mean?